Where have you lived?
I started life in Somerset, living at Monkton Coombs School. We moved away from there in 1938 to Radley College, where my father went there to teach physics, and were there until war broke out. Then we moved to Kennington, the next village between Radley and Oxford. Had 4 years in Kennington, then back to Radley. We were married from Radley College. I lived there until we were married. And then after 1957, Ray and I lived in Henley-on-Thames for 2 years. A nice little house, which it was a big house, had been divided in two. We had half of the house, which was very good. But we let it our second year we were there because we had to go. Ray got transferred to Scotland in his job, so we let it to some RAF people, and we moved up to Troon in Ayrshire, and we took Stephen with us. He was a tiny baby at that time, and so we were in Troon for perhaps 18 months, and after Troon we moved to Cheshire, and we had about 4 or 5 years in Cheshire on the Wirral, a place called Burton in Wirral, where Caroline was born, and also Tom was born there. So I think we had about 4 or 5 years in Cheshire. Ray then changed his job. He was with an advertising agency in Liverpool, but he gave that up and joined Lyons Brothers. And so we then moved south, and we found a house in Buckinghamshire, in Bourne End, Buckinghamshire. Lived there for nearly 30 years, and that was where the children all went to school and grew up and made their friendships and what have you. So after Buckinghamshire, we then retired down to Dorset and lived in a house called Park Pale down in Southover near Tolpuddle, right in the middle of the country, down a farm track on the River Piddle, which was absolutely delightful. But about 14 months ago we moved house again, thinking we wanted to be near stations and buses and shops and this, that and the other. But of course I decided it was much more important to be near friends and to be in the same community where we had grown up, well, spent nearly 20 years. So we moved into the village of Tolpuddle, and may not be terribly wise at our stage of life, but we have bought a Grade 2 listed thatched cob cottage, which is intensely interesting. It's one of the oldest houses in the village, opposite the Martyr's Tree. It's quite a significant cottage in the village. It has no garage. We've been used to having a big garage. Nowhere to put anything, but it does have 4 bedrooms, so we can have plenty of people staying, which is lovely. And a nice little garden, which I can manage on my own, so that's where we are.
Have you had jobs? Who did you work for and what did you do?
I haven't worked since I've been married. I worked before I was married. After school, I went to a cookery college in London called the National Training School of Cookery, which is in Buckingham Palace Road. I think it's been closed now. It was opposite the Victoria station. And my mother went there. She did a cordon bleu there, and my godmother had been to the same college, and so it seemed obvious that I should go there. It was very old-fashioned. We learnt how to iron with one of these old heavy iron metal irons, and we learnt how to use gophering irons for the maids' bonnets, maids' caps and things, which all seemed a bit out of date, but still. And we did cookery and laundry work and all sorts of other things. So I just did a year there, and then got a job, hoped to have a job as a receptionist at a hotel in Boars Hill, which was close to where I lived, close to Oxford and close to Radley. But the day I arrived to work in the reception, the cook had walked out, and I blithely said, "Oh, I've been to cookery school, I can cook." So I suddenly found myself being in charge of cooking for everybody in the hotel. I think there were about, I don't think more than about 20, 25, mostly elderly residents. Quite a few commercial travellers used to come in for the odd night. But we had huge Argos to cook on, and I really enjoyed it. But it was very hard work. I did breakfast and we did lunch, and I had to prepare things for tea. There were scones and cakes and things, and then we had an evening meal. So it was quite a lot of work. But I was young then, and lots of energy. Used to cycle back to Radley in my time off and spend a lot of time dressmaking and having fun. Then I did that for 2 years. After a while, I then moved to another hotel in Oxford, which was run by good friends of mine, and did what I really wanted to do, which was to be on the reception, making bookings and supervising some of the bedroom staff, make sure they made the beds properly and doing the bookings and that sort of thing. That was good fun, really. And from there, I got married. At that time, got engaged when I was there, and then got married. And the only paid work I've had since being married, for nearly 60 years, was right at the beginning. We wanted to go on a skiing holiday, but we hadn't got much money, so I did a job demonstrating sunbeam mixers in Heelus in Reading in the shop. And if somebody wanted to buy one of the mixers, I would go to their home and give them a home demonstration. But most of the time I was in the shop demonstrating this mixer with Sally Sunbeam written on my bosom, next door to a girl who had Hot Point written on her bosom, selling Hot Point washing machines, which was all highly amusing, but quite good fun. So that's all I've really done. And then we had children, and I was a busy housewife.
How about religion? Do you belong to a church?
Oh yes, I'm very much brought up almost for Anglo-Catholic, really. My grandfather was in the church. It's been a great influence on my life. My father was ordained. I went to a convent school, a high Anglican church school where we had to go to chapel every day. So it's really been a major part of my life. I do attend church regularly, and that's about it. Mm-hmm.
And lastly, which political party do you support and why?
I've always supported the Conservatives. I joined them a long time ago. I've been a member for many, many